Okay, you can put that down, and we can begin.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Thomas Blatt, and I'm here because when you come face to face with a survivor of the Holocaust, then history comes alive. My talk here is not an academic type derived from studies, data. It's from my own experience. I try, as a witness of the Holocaust, to give you a very personal human dimension that hopeful will bring you closer to understand the reality of this experience. In 1939, Germany attacked Poland, starting the Second World War. And the treatment of the occupied nations was inhuman, and this led to the destruction of many millions of people. The concept of a new political order was taking shape. The populations were categorized, labeled, and dealt accordingly. Race, color of your skin, religious denomination was decisive in your right to live or to die. Genocide has been committed long before the Holocaust, and as a matter of fact, it's committed right now while I speak here in many parts of the world. The question is, what is so different about the Nazi murder of the Jews? Many other people, many millions, died because of the war. Why should we single out the Jewish experience for study? What is different and unprecedented is the concept and the organization. For the first time, a genocide of other people, just because of their race or religion, became a government policy supported by supported by state law. Having been born in the wrong religion was a deadly sin to be punished by death. What's happened about a century ago, a half a century ago, is not a history as much as it is a warning. On January 20, 1942, at a secret meeting known now by historians as the Wannsee Conference. Wannsee is a suburb of Berlin. The conference was held in Wannsee. Hitler's close associates discussed the final solution of the Jewish problem. The question was not to kill or not to kill the Jews, because the killing was already going on in the eastern territories conquered by the Nazis in the Soviet Union. But the problem was that these executions, they were too slow. Simple to take 1,000, 2,000 people to a forest or a ravine and kill them. It was too slow, and it was too nervous for the soldiers. The question was how to do it more efficient. And as a result of this conference, in very fast succession, 3 extermination camps were built. Belzec, Treblinka, and the most secret one, Sobibor. A lot of people know about concentration camps. Very few know there were special death camps where there were no selections. People arrived, and the moment they went down from the train, they were led to the gas chambers without any selections. I hope that you will find an answer in my story about the still debated questions. How was it possible to kill so many million people in such a short time? And why didn't we resist, fight back? The genocide was possible because this was a case of special circumstances, planned deception, and the blindness of the true nature of a racist state. Common sense and human feeling refused to believe that such thing is possible. The speed of the annihilation froze the Jews in a state of shock, and they were realizing what's happened. It was too late. Not many of us were left. It's a simple wonder that the Jews imprisoned in ghettos, without any logistic, any outside help, were able to organize resistance at all. Let's say the Polish resistance had help from the Soviet Union, from London. The Russian resistance had help from the Soviet Union too. Only the Jews were left alone, because so little is known about Jewish resistance. I will try to make one aware of a very small part of it, the uprising in the death camp Sobibor, the biggest and most successful revolt of all the Nazi camps, concentration, death camps, labor camps in occupied Europe. I was in Sobibor, and I will start my story now, the story of the revolt in Sobibor, where we prisoners revolted, defeated and downcast, tortured day after day, condemned to death in a day, maybe a week, or a few months. We stood up to the enemy. We fought with an axe, a knife, and with the bare hands. And our fight in Sobibor, our revolt, shows the unique and humiliating defeat of the heavy armed SS. We killed practically at 80% of the Nazis, and we escaped. Now, my own story. I was born in a little town, the Stettel. Stettel is a little place where mostly were Jews. In Ibiza, 98% were Jews. It started with 3 Jewish houses in the 16th century. In 1939, it was already a bigger town in Poland called Ibiza. And I loved my towns, mostly Orthodox place. I remember my childhood. It wasn't exactly Orthodox. My father was in between, you know. He did go to the synagogue that's in Yom Kippur, but I think that was all. I remember my mother just still lighting candles Friday in the evening when Sabbath started. For me, Ibiza was the whole world. I loved it. For me, Ibiza was the center of the world. In 1939, the war started, and the Germans arrived. Again, in the beginning, the conditions weren't so bad because they were simple Wehrmacht soldiers, simple soldiers, and we even did do some business with them. Yiddish is very similar, the language we spoke in Ibiza Yiddish, very similar to the German language, and whoever understood Yiddish understood also German, vice versa. The Germans understood Yiddish because Yiddish derived from the German language. But pretty soon a different German arrived, tall soldiers, dark uniforms, with a dead skull on the cap, and everything changed. I remember they first arrived and they demanded from the Jewish elders, so-called Judenrat, they demanded 1,500 people for a settlement. And whoever will go voluntarily to the train station will receive bread and marmalade. Many hungry people, the whole families, went peaceful to the train station, and on the train station they received what the Germans promised, bread and marmalade, and after they eat they were asked to go in the wagons, and later the wagons were closed and the train moved in the eastern direction. Well, a day passed, 2, 3, we were expecting some letters, we did want to know where the train stopped, where the people had settled. 2 weeks later, again, the town was surrounded by soldiers, and the Jews were asked to go to the train station. But many Jews did hide in hiding places, and they didn't fill the quota, again about 1,500 Jews. So the Germans went to the houses, broke down the doors, the windows, and picked up whoever they discovered hiding. They took him to the train station, again loaded in the train, and the train left again on the eastern direction. But we asked some Poles before this, we call it action, before this action we asked Poles if there will be a roundup again, they should follow the train and tell us where the train stops. And so when this transport left, some Poles on bicycles, on horseback, left after the train. And they did return the same day and told us an unbelievable story. He told us that the train stops in a small village in the middle of the forest called Sobibor. And there, according to the villagers, to the farmers living there, the train is pushed in farther in the forest, where there is about a 3/4 mile special place surrounded by barbed wire. The train goes in, after half an hour the train comes out empty. And according to the farmers, something terrible must happen in this place, because according to them, so many transports are coming day and night, and this place, should the 1/4 mile surrounded by barbed wires, should be for a long time overflowed with people. Only in the nighttime because you have fire, that's all. Obviously, we were aware it's a killing place. People come in but never go out. One day, my mother called me to her room, and she said, "Toivi, you're leaving for Hungary." I said, "Ma, what do you mean? Where's Hungary?" You see, I was, as I said, a small, practically village boy. I had places, there's a different, people live different, like the next city, Lublin, where if you need water, you go turn something on the wall and water's coming out, even hot water. And if we say you need water, you go to a well with buckets and you take the water. In wintertime, people, they break the legs because ice around the well was a lot of ice. Anyway, it was about 8 or so wells. I heard stories that in big cities, there are places where if you need electricity, you turn the switch and you have electricity. In Ibiza, we had kerosene lamps. You need light, you do 5 o'clock, you turn on the kerosene lamp. I had more unbelievable things that they have in big cities. They have toilets in their room, And this was beyond my understanding. How could we at all in the house, especially in Izbica, we had small quarters, and it doesn't smell. In Izbica, we had about 8 outhouses around Izbica, and if you need to go, you run. Many times I didn't make it in time. So this was Izbica, but I really loved it. For me, Izbica was the most beautiful town. And now my mother told me, you were leaving for Hungary. I wasn't so stupid. I know what's going on. I was aware, and I asked my Ma, do you know the rumors in the town that the few Poles under the leadership of, what was his name? Can't remember. There was one guy, Gajos. Under the leadership of Gajos is taking the Jews to the Hungarian border, and they're walking for a while in the forest near the border. And later, at a point, the Gajos told the Jews, listen, luckily we managed to cross the border, nobody stopped us, and now sign a letter that you luckily crossed the border. And people signed, and when they signed, so the family in the ghetto should pay the money, the Jews were killed. And everything was taken from them. So I told Ma about the rumors, and Ma said, I don't know. Here in the ghetto, we are waiting to die. It's the end. Not tonight, tomorrow, not tomorrow, it's in a week or 2 or 3. We're waiting to be killed. Hungary, maybe the rumors are not true. But here for sure we will die. It's up to you. So I said, Ma, I'm going. At that point, she took a page of paper, and she said, Toivi, they called me Toivi in Izbica, Jewish name. Toivi, this is a birth certificate from a Polish Christian boy who died a few days ago, and the mayor of the city didn't cross him off as that he died, but he took his birth certificate, they'd give it to your dad, he should save you. Maybe this will help. So I took this birth certificate, it was a new name, Waldemar Ptaszek, I remember. And that was all. About 2 o'clock, I left my home, said goodbye to my parents, went to Mr. Schneider's home, where all of the trying to escape were congregated. We were 8 people. And between us was a beautiful girl, about 16 or 17 years old. And into the darkness of the night, we managed to go out from the ghetto and reach the train station. In small towns, in Izbica at least, the train station consisted of one line of a railroad and some bushes, and that's all. So we hid in the bushes, the train arrived, we jumped in the wagon, and we were on our way to Hungary. But we didn't make it. What's happened? This girl, which was with us, from Izbica on, she was next to the window looking outside, like observing the scenery. The truth is that she was trying to hide her face this way because she had typical Semitic features. In America, it wouldn't mean much. They're different people. But in Poland, they're mostly Slavs, mostly blonde, blue eyes. If I say typical Semitic features, I mean dark, curly hair, dark eyes, maybe the nose was a little bit bigger. Anyway, if somebody would look for a Jew, he could recognize her, no point. So she was standing watching until the conductor comes, asks for the ticket, she turns around, did give him the ticket, the conductor said thank you, and he left. But probably, for sure, the fellow travelers, somebody from the fellow travelers recognized her, because a few minutes later, 2 policemen arrived, asking for the papers and took her away. At this point, if I would act like this around the fellow travelers, excited of what happened, maybe there are more Jews, I probably would make it. My hair at that time were lighter, blonde, I have blue eyes, the nose was shorter at that time, you know, you grow, the nose is growing with you. So, but what did I do? I was 14.5 years. I was scared to death. I felt that I'm wet from sweating. So I took a newspaper, pretending I'm reading. So what's happened when everyone is so excited and talking to each other, here's a fellow just sitting like nothing happened, and probably I stood up like a sore thumb. Because at a point I feel the paper turn from my face, look up, and there's a soldier. Papers, so they're given the birth certificate. What's your name? Waldemar Ptaszek. You're Jewish. No, I'm not Jewish. You are Jewish. I'm not. You are. I'm not. For a minute or two, and I said no, because I know agreeing, telling the truth is a death sentence for me. But in Poland, you see, if they weren't sure if the guy is a Jew or not, the men, they checked if he's circumcised, because only Jews were circumcised in Poland. So I said, come with me. He took me to the toilet. In the toilet, he looks down, looks at me. He's surprised some way. I could see some kind of surprise. He looks again down. Later, he calls another soldier, another policeman who was in another end of the wagon. Ivan, chodzi сюда, which meant, Ivan, come here. Ivan comes, Ivan looks down, looks up. Why were these all surprised? Because I did try weeks before to correct the damage, I say damage, what the rabbi did do to me, the circumcision. I did do it with a string, with a stone, heavy stone. Anyway, it's too difficult to explain. It didn't help. The only result was that everything was swollen. And this is the reason he wasn't able to recognize. But obviously, I did manipulate in this area, so I must be Jewish. And they arrested me and put me in jail. Okay. Now we come to a point where I would skip 6 months, because if I would try, first of all, it's unbelievable, the story, which if I would like to tell you, not to skip the half a year, is number one. Number two, it is, I could do it in a couple sentences, that I was put in a jail. After 6 months, I managed to be free, to escape from the jail. And with the help of a German officer, I went back to Ibiza. Now this is very short, because if you read my book, you could find the whole story. Not a long story. Should I know? You would need to sit hours, so forget it. We will start again. I went back to Ibiza with the help of a German officer, and because I find out that in Ibiza are still Jews, and my parents are there. So I arrived in the night time, about 2 o'clock, on the train as a Pole, not as a Jew, actually as a German kid with this officer. And knocked on the door, and they opened to let me in. And my brother was so happy, I remember, and my parents. And my dad told me the story, what's happened till now. He told me when I left Ibiza, 2 weeks later there was a roundup again called Akcja, and Ibiza was declared Judenstadt, Judenrein. Ibiza was declared Judenrein. What is Judenrein? There are 2 words which were terrible to hear to in that time in occupied Poland, in the ghetto. One was Aktion, when the place was surrounded, the little town, the little village, by soldiers, and they grabbed everybody and they filled let me see, they look for 1,000 to 2,000 Jews. When they filled the quota, they took the Jews to the train station, and whoever was lucky and he was successful or hidden, he did go out in the street and was like normal, you know, like normal. They didn't touch him anymore because the train left. But, as my dad said, 2 weeks later was again a roundup, and Jesus was declared Judenrein. That meant that after this roundup, no Jew is allowed to live in Izbica. Anybody could kill him, anybody could deliver to the Germans, except one place was a tannery producing leather for the Germans. The 200 Jews in the tannery were allowed to produce leather still. Anybody else must go to the train station. So, was no sense to hide. Where will you hide? You have a hiding place in the room. We had it in our apartment before. Well, how long could you hide successful? A day, 2, 3? You need to eat. You need to go to the toilet. But this wasn't worst. The worst was that your neighbor did come in, took your tablecloth, took the chairs, took whatever, because we left it normally. And they will discover you. And if they will discover, they wouldn't be happy you should stay alive, seeing him rob you. So people did go like without guards, practically, to the train station, whole families. But as I said, when I arrived, my family, my parents were still working in this tannery, for now secured. And I remember they talking in the tannery. Oh, they took the sick people, they took the children, they took the old people. They wouldn't touch us. We are producing leather, and leather is very important for the army. It's a strategic product. It is a strategic product. They wouldn't touch it. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after I arrived in Izbica, about the 28th of April, early in the morning, it was still dark, a rifle shot woke me up. I was sleeping in the attic. I did run through a window, look down, and I see the whole tannery surrounded by Germans. And I know this is the last day of our life. I was apprehended by a German, taken outside. And outside I have seen already about 50 people surrounded by soldiers, which were apprehended already. And the soldier pushed me in over there and went to look for other Jews. And I realized that I've done everything I could. I tried to escape, I didn't manage, and now this is it. I'm surrounded by soldiers. Now, the guard, one of the guards standing next to me, practically touching my boots, he didn't want to smoke a cigarette. So I take the package of cigarettes, took the matches, started going, the wind blew it up. Again, the wind blew up the match. Finally, he picked up his collar from his coat, turned the head away from the wind, and lighted a cigarette. When I have seen this, his head turns away from me, I simply slid out and mingled with the onlookers, Christian people just observing, standing about 5, 10 feet farther. And he didn't notice that I went out. But I realized that this is not the end. I'm still in danger. Looking around, I see a good friend of mine, Janek Knapczyk, the guy who was many times sleeping in my place. I slept in his place. Happy, I said, Janek, please save me. Janek said, of course, Tom, Toivi. Go to our barn. His farm and his barn was very close. So I go over there, but there's a big padlock on the gate. I can't go into the barn. So I walk around to see maybe some panel is broken or whatever. That's an old barn. When I see a woman standing a little bit higher, you see, this was a foothill, standing higher, and she started to yell at me, Toivi, run, Toivi, run. I said, what's happened? Janek is coming. Now, if Janek is coming, why should I run? He will open the padlock. But why is she so desperate and agitated? turned my head to Yannick. I see Yannick with a German, with a soldier. He's a Jew, take him. And he took me down to the marketplace where all the Jews were congregated. I've seen my parents already sitting there. Pretty soon, 2 trucks arrived. On the front of the 2 trucks was a jeep with soldiers with a machine gun. In the back of the 2 trucks, another jeep, soldiers, machine gun. The trucks were covered with canvas. They told us to go in. We went in. And the trucks started in the eastern direction where Sobibor was. And now we know we are going to Sobibor. But what's happened? They could take from people everything. Everything. One thing will be always left to the last minute, and this is hope. And because of the stretch of road from Izbica, 70 kilometers only, Izbica to Sobibor, were 2 off-ramps to concentration camp, I heard a conversation in the dark trucks. Oh, for sure they would take us to a concentration camp. We are young, we are healthy people, producing leather, again the same story. And I remember the trucks passing one off-ramp to a concentration camp. They didn't stop, go straight. But still hope. Oh, this concentration camp we passed is not a big one. For sure, the next concentration camp, Travniki, a big one, will turn left because the factories and the sugar factories on, for sure. And the same story, we are young. And I remember the trucks passing the off-ramp to the concentration camp and didn't turn. And I still remember the mass, hope is gone. And the next stop will be Sobibor. And so it was. The next stop, 20 minutes later, truck stopped, told us to go down, Sobibor. This place, Sobibor, was so secret that the soldiers and the officers which brought us there were ordered immediately to get out, move out, before they opened the gate, and they moved out. And I remember standing in front of a green, long fence. Why it was green, I find out later. It was actually a regular barbed wire fence interwoven with young pine branches, so you can look through. And I was so scared again, I remember. And I imagined what I will see when they open the gate, that I will see like a hell, fires and people and rocks and terrible things. I must relax a little bit. Yeah.
Part 2, and you're on.
Okay. So, finally the gates opened. There was a sign over the gates, SS Sonderkommando, which meant SS Special Command. The guys up and go in, the gates close behind us, look around, and I can't believe it. It did look like a nice, clean village. There were little villas. On the left side, I remember, with fancy names like Schwalbennest, Swallow's Nest. Another one was Gottes Heimat, God's home. It was neat, nice, flowers. And in the right side, I remember, was a platform, like a little train station, but this was not for the Polish Jews. We didn't know we were going to die. This was from transport from Holland, from France. They didn't know. They did come in, and the Germans were nice to them. And I'm sure when they were in the gas chambers, when he said the gas, he said water from the showerheads, gas did come out. Maybe in that time they realized there's something wrong. Anyway, my way. We get out, we stopped on the road, and there's a German, it's him, Karl Frenzel, start to yell, men on one side, women and children on the other side. And I was in that time with my mother, but instinctively I felt I have a better chance as a man. I said to my mother goodbye. I said it in a way it's suiting me till now. What's happened? A day before in the ghetto, I was thirsty, and I said to my mom, Ma, could I have a drink of milk? And she said, oh, take it, it's in the icebox. And probably I did drink too much, because my ma at a point said, Toivi, leave it, tomorrow's another day. She meant I should keep it for tomorrow, I should leave something. And now when I separate from my ma, instead to take her around and kiss her like all the other people they do, brothers, sisters, parents, I said to her, you see, you told me tomorrow's another day, like a broken promise. And she said, that's all I have to say, and this way we parted. When the division was completed, this same Frenzel told the woman and children to go straight. Farther on, about 200 yards, was another green fence. A fire I've seen burning on the other side. And I find out later that the gas chamber was over there, above, on the other side of the fence. And he left. Now, the menace is left. And this Frenzel yells, who's a carpenter? Who's a mechanic? Who's a builder? Usually there was no selections, but this time they didn't need people because they were expanding Sobibor. Me, 15 years old, I mean, a kid in that age goes to school. I had no trade, but I was so I still believe that my strong will some way reached this German. I know that to talk to each other, vocalization is not necessary. I know some people could understand just being close to themselves. I had stories when a mother will feel when her child miles away is sick or dying. Anyway, I strongly believe that my strong will some way reached this German, because at a point when he was pacing back and forth, he looked at me, our eyes met, and I said, and I was praying in that time still, and I said, God, help me. He looked at me and said, komm raus, du Kleiner, du willst mein Schuhpitzen, komm out, you little one, you will be my shoeshine boy. I stepped out and was attached to a group of 40 people to walk in Sobibor. Now I will tell about Sobibor. A lot of people say, deniers, Holocaust deniers, that it's impossible to kill so fast, as I said before, so many people. It's possible if they don't know, if the receptions are strong. So I will tell you the way the mechanics of killing a group of transport of 3,000 Jews from Holland. The train arrived, the people were told to get down. They left the luggage on the platform. They were promised the luggage will come to them. And later they marched about 200 yards to a big yard where a Sessman, a German, dressed in a white uniform, pretending to be a doctor, had a short speech. He apologized for the difficult 3-day trip from Holland, but now they could see they're in a nice place. But they will get their quarters, but for sanitary reasons, they must have a shower. Please undress yourself and go to the shower. And people undressed themselves, sometimes the Club Bravo. And after that, they went straight to an alley called by the Germans, by us, called Himmelfahrtstraße, the road to heaven. I have it here someplace. This is really difficult. This is the plan. Okay, anyway, that's not important. So, in second. Herman Mitchell, he is the fellow who had a short speech pretending to be a doctor. Okay. Now one more. Okay, this is a model of Sobibor, which I made, is now in the museum, Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles. Okay. And he went straight to the gas chamber through this Himmelfahrtstraße. And as I said before, I'm convinced that when in this gas chamber, through the shower head, gas did come out instead of water, they probably were thinking it must be some malfunction. But it was too late for them. 20 minutes later, they were dead and taken to be cremated. Okay, this is the road of a transport. It didn't take long and 3,000 people were killed without any scream, without anything. Except in the gas chamber they did scream in the beginning. Now about the revolt, and we will finish. We finally organized a underground organization, and we planned a revolt. We used the greed of the German officers. Many times we find nice things, special leather stuff, and the Germans took it for themselves. So the plan was to kill all the Germans in 1 hour, between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. 2 hours actually, 2, 3 hours. And how to kill them? To lure them to different places where our people were hidden. And when they come to these places, for example, to pick up the leather cord which we did find, when they would be killed with knives and axes.
Hold on 1 second, sir. Here we go.
So
Yep.
we planned the revolt. The point is this, that most of the prisoners of Sobibor, we were not educated about rifles, about fighting, about killing people, how to do it. We were, and I don't know if we would manage without people, men trained in the military fashion. Luckily for us, a transport arrived from the ghetto of Minsk, and a lot of former prisoners of war, Jewish people, officers, soldiers were in this transport. And again, they need a few people, the Germans, and they picked up about 70 healthy people, most of them former prisoners of war. They didn't even know about this. And they didn't know about guns, about rifles, about mines. And with their help, with an officer called Sasha Peczorski, a Jew, only Jews were there, very fast fighting group was organized, and as I said before, the plan was to lure the Nazis to a killing place, kill them with knives, don't use their weapons until the last minute when we make an open revolt. And the plan was the camp should work normally like every day. And so it started. I was the guy one of the guys who used to lure the Nazis. I went to a guy, Wolf, told him, Mr. Scharführer, Herr Scharführer, we find a beautiful leather cord, exactly your size, would you go and try it on? And he left. He was killed over there with knives, and we had a gun, we can use them. And so about 5 o'clock was the end of work, and we did return to the living quarters, so-called Lager 1. And over there I was shocked. And this was why we succeeded, actually. I was shocked because in that time when you return to the quarters, you go immediately to the kitchen, stay in the line for coffee. And I didn't believe it. Practically everybody stood in the line except a few people which were in the organization. And the organization was about 10%, which meant about 30 people. And finally Sasha jumped on our table, had a short speech, but now is the time. We should take revenge, we should kill the murderers, and we should tell the world what's happened here. And whoever will survive, his duty is to do it, to tell the world about the crime of the German people. We didn't say in that time Nazis, we said German people. Now it's a style, we talk about them, talking Nazis. Anyway, I'm finishing now. I had a talk and I again start to pray to God. God help me and I will never forget to tell my world. And this is the reason I'm here with you too. I never stop telling if I have a chance. We could stop here. Or
if you're comfortable.
Yeah, we could go on in the forest outside because later Paul shot at me. I have still the bullet here. Oh. He was hiding me. He pretended to hide, but he did come in. We were 3 boys. He shot at all of us. So I don't know. We could end it here, or we could go further.
Well, how did you get out of the camp? How did you survive the camp?
I escaped.
You escaped
with all of them. I did try to finish it because the time.
Oh, that's okay. We have another couple of minutes. Go ahead and say how you got out.
So when finally after his talk, we started to yell hurrah. And we were running to the main gate, and I was running to the main gate. Some people did run straight at the barbed wires, but I was aware that where the main gate is, there were German quarters and there were no mines. This was the only camp in the Second World War, Nazi camp, who had mines around the perimeter. And we didn't know that close to the gate and close to the German quarters, there are mines, but they are alarm mines. They don't hear, they make alarm only. And I was running this way when I noticed this Frenzel with a machine gun, this guy again shooting at us. And I see a friend fall here, I heard the whistle of the bullets, so I run back, and now I don't remember which way I managed. I did run in the corridor surrounding the camp, the corridor where the guards were moving around. You know, probably I went through the little gate to this hallway. Now I was lucky because in this way 2 barbed wire fences were left behind. Sobibor has 3 barbed wire fences. I had on the front 1 barbed wire fence. So I run to the barbed wire fence, but I can't do much because I have only a knife. I remember it must be I find it sorting the stuff. It must be from a rabbi or whatever. It was a big knife written kosher shel Pesach, I remember. Which means only for the holiday, for the Passover. And I can't cut the barbed wires, but pretty soon a guy did come with an axe. He made a hole and people started to go through. And I started to go through. And exactly when I was half in this hole, the guard probably noticed people standing in the line to go through, the guard on the tower. Because he started to shoot again, and people did run away from this line, and they started to climb the fence like a ladder. At a point, the fence, under the weight of the people climbing, collapsed, and exactly when I went through, the fence fell over me. And I was pinned down, and I thought, oh God, I can't go out. People were stepping over me, and I can't go out, and this is it, not even wounded in this way. But I had a coat, a very nice leather coat, and the barbed wires were bedded a little bit, but I managed to slid, when everybody went down, escaped, I managed to slid out, leaving the coat over there. And escaped. I was probably the last of the escapees. I fall down a few times, thinking I'm hit, but I wasn't hit. In that time into the barbed wires, I thought I'm lost. But now, later, analyzing this, this was my miracle. Because when I was running, if I would run the first I would hit the mines, because a lot of people, because laying under the barbed wires, I've seen the mines exploding. And but now when I started, all the mines explode, so I made it to the forest. And I was in the forest. Now we need to go in for another at least half an hour. You know, my way to Ibiza, in my way to the farmer, I paid the money, he agreed, and after he killed me, he shot at me, I was still alive, only one bullet here. I was running, I was hidden in a I have it downstairs. Anyway, I was sitting in an old brick factory. I used to play as a kid in the ovens, and later I was working for the Polish underground as a courier until I was liberated by the Russians.